What's up, adventurers? My name is Platinum Phoenix, and this is part 23 of our Fossil Fighter playthrough. Last time, we met the Dinaurians and learned of their plan to wipe out all of humanity. And this time, we need to go find Saurhead to see if he will let us use his mask in order to infiltrate the Dinaurian spaceship. Alright, let's go see if we can find him.
Oh, Richmond told me to expect a visit from you. He says you need to borrow a mask. Do you realize what you're asking? You might as well ask to borrow my face. Most people who ask Saurhead for a favor like that would get a world of pain for their trouble. For a master fighter like you, I might make an exception, but I can't just hand it over. You're gonna have to earn it, boy. You have to face off against 15 of my Vtuber, 5 straight battles. If you survive until the end of the sudden death match, I'll give you the mask.
Oh man, did you hear that? Saurhead's gonna battle and put his mask on the line. And a sudden death match? I don't know what that means, but it sure sounds exciting.
Are you ready now to enter the sudden death match?
Yes, we are.
Yes, that's the answer I expected from a fighter of your caliber. Begin.
Alright, so the start of this battle, you have probably noticed that he has a monotype team of all neutral types. So this fight actually doesn't matter what Vtuber you bring, just as long as they're strong enough to take out a neutral type team. With that being said, all of his teams, since we're fighting him 5 times in a row, are all neutral type teams. So he has a neutral team, he has a... they're not all neutral type teams, they're all solo type teams. That's what I meant to say. So he has a neutral type, a water type, an air type, a fire type, and an earth type team. Not specifically in that order, though. But since we are literally just fighting him 5 times in a row, I think this is a great time to go over the bios of the new areas that have unlocked. We haven't unlocked any new dig sites, but we have unlocked new areas in previous dig sites. Specifically, Area 2 in Rivet Ravine has opened up. Basically, it's where the rocks were right before you enter the tunnels. If you just go down that bridge, that's Area 2, and that has new Vtuber. And then it is the pay-to-dig site as well in Rivet Ravine, which is when you go into the tunnels, instead of going right to go to tunnel number 5, if you go left, that tunnel is now open, and it leads you to tunnel number 1, which is a pay-to-dig site. So, let's go over all of the Vtuber that can be found in those 2 areas. First up in Rivet Ravine, area number 2 is Igwa. Honestly, there's not a whole ton to go over for Igwa. It has decent support effects, as well as a skill to inflict confuse. Other than that, it has a counter skill as well, but even with all those things, its stats are pretty middling, especially in this late in the game. I would say to skip using it, but you could probably get some type of use out of Igwa if you chose to add it to your team. Next up is Lambio. Finally, we get to see what Metal Dealer Joe's eyes look like. It's only been like 20 episodes or whatever. But anyway, Lambio likes to sit in the attack zone and spread around both Enrage and Excite, while dealing massive damage with its equally massive attack stat. Other than that, Lambio has one of the most useful team attacks that we have ever seen. It's called Healing Hand, and it recovers 100 life points to both of your other Vtuber. The only downside to this team skill is that it costs 280 FP, so you would probably only be doing that on the turn that you decided to use that team attack. With that said, I would recommend Lambio, even this late into the game. You have to make sure that your team has the correct groupings to allow it to use that team attack, but it's a very powerful Venusaur that has the ability to support your other Venusaurs in dire situations if you do so. Serato is an attack class Venusaur that specializes in knocking your opponents into the escape zone. 2 out of its 4 skills allow it to do this, and it's actually super helpful to stop opponents with a lot of buffs, or just to remove a Venusaur that you don't particularly want to deal with at the current moment. Other than that, Serato is one of the very few Venusaurs that does not have access to any team skills, meaning that if you choose to add Serato to your team, you are trading in the use of team skills whenever you use it. Serato also has some pretty middling stats compared to the other Venusaurs that we could get well before this point. So with that and the loss of team skills, I wouldn't really recommend using it for really much of anything besides knocking your opponents into their escape zone. And the final Venusaur for area number 2 is Alio. The way I would describe Alio is that it's basically a stronger version of the various different raptors we've seen besides the U-Raptor. The reason I say this is because that it deals almost exclusively in skills that cause poison, and it doesn't really have any support effects, so putting it in the support zone doesn't actually affect your team at all. So if you have been using the raptors and were bummed that there wasn't like a water type raptor that you could use, Alio fits the same playstyle and even brings along some extra power to help even out your team a bit. After area number 2, we have Rivet Ravine's pay-to-dig site with its first Venusaur, Angato. Angato has a pretty respectable attack stat and poison skills to help deal even more damage. On the other hand, the rest of its stats are middling to bad, but since Angato is an attack class that is really focused on just dealing as much damage as physically possible, the lower stats are not really an issue. I would say that if you are still looking for a water type this late into the game, you could do a lot worse than adding Angato to your team. Next is Pachyrino. Pachyrino can do a ton of things, from being able to knock your opponents into their escape zone and inflicting Venusaurs with the enraged status or the hardened status, to being a user of the parting blow ability and having access to a really nice defense increasing support effect. Pachyrino really lives up to its all-around class. The only real downside is its pretty weak stats, and that downside can be avoided by focusing on statuses or using its parting blow passive ability in sticky situations. Also, I just want to gush about its design for a second. The only way I know how to do this is like a kid who's trying to tell you about their new toy, so I'm just gonna lean into that. It's a Triceratops dressed up as a military army tank. It's so cool and an awesome design for a bulky Venusaur based on military equipment. Okay, now with that out of my system, on to the next Venusaur. Acro is an all-around class Venusaur with a high attack stat. Acro also has a decent support effect that raises the attack stat of your other Venusaurs as well. The main downside to Acro is that it only really deals in damage-dealing skills, but with the good attack stat and the ability to switch around without any consequences, makes this downside not really matter all too often. Overall, I would say that Acro is a pretty basic Venusaur, but sometimes having something that is basic and reliable is just what you need. After Acro is Dimorph. There are 2 things that make Dimorph a really good long-range Venusaur. The first is its support effects that nerfs your opponent's attack zone Venusaur's stats by 25% each. Dimorph also has access to both a silver and a gold version of enraged skills, which means that it's nuking your opponent's accuracy as well. All that together makes your opponent's attack zone Venusaur basically useless, because even if it can hit through the accuracy drops of the enraged status and the support effects, its attack is dropped by those same support effects, so it's basically doing no damage anyway. If you are still looking for a fire type or a long range Venusaur, I highly recommend Dimorph because of these reasons. And the final Venusaur in the pay-to-dig site is Paraloft. There are a ton of things in Paraloft's favor. It gets access to several different status skills like a Confuse skill, an Enrage skill, and a Counter skill. Paraloff also gets some pretty decent support effects that increase all of your attack zone Venusaur stats by a nice 7% each, making pretty much any of your other Venusaurs better on the battlefield. And all of that is on top of stats that are comparable to Spinax's stats. And I think I've shown that Spinax is a pretty great Venusaur to use. And Paraloff has the status skills with those stats, so it could very easily be seen as better than Spinax. Paraloff is a true, all-around class Venusaur that I can easily recommend.
What it's like to put everything into a battle and still lose. I don't say this very often. I'm impressed. 5 matches in a row against me? Good work. I'm a fighter of my word, so here's the mask right off my head. Use it well.
Oh my gosh, Saurhead's gonna take his mask off. We're finally gonna see the true face of Saurhead.
Here, you've earned it.
That's Saurhead? Under the mask is another mask?
What? You need a mask for Dr. Diggins too? That's fair. You pulled out a pretty spectacular victory today. So here's another mask.
Saurhead's gonna take his mask off. Again, his other mask. This time we'll see Saurhead's true face. Huh? What's going on?
I wear about 30 masks at a time. You can't be too careful with your identity.
Saurhead's the best. It must be super hot and uncomfortable in all those masks, but he still does it. And yay for not seeing Saurhead's face, but for learning some trivia about him. Yay! Alrighty then. I did get one thing about Saurhead's teams wrong. Specifically, he had a neutral type team, all monotype, a water type team, all monotype, an earth type team, all monotype, and a air type team, all monotype. But when I got to his fire team, he actually had a turbo, which is an air type for some reason, and I don't remember that happening in my test run. So there's a chance that he just doesn't have a full fire type monotype team for some reason. But anyway, we're back at the Richmond building. Oh, was I not supposed to come here? Mr. Richmond, tell me where to go. Oh. I guess he went to the fossil center, which I didn't remember. I'll guess. I guess I'll see you back at the fossil center. Hello, Phoenix. Dr. Diggins left a message for you. He said, wouldn't you get the mask to bring it down to the warehouse? The warehouse is through the door to the left at the end of the hall. Thank you, Wendy. Alright, what's happening in here? Dr. Diggins. Hi, Phoenix! Is that 2 star masks you've got there? Perfect! I'm all set here. I opened up the teleportation device and found out the battery was dead. You know me, I got to tinkering and ended up totally rebuilding it. It's a little bigger now, though. A little? It used to be handheld. We should be able to visit the Dinaurian spaceship as much as we want now. Okay, let's put on our disguises and sneak onto that ship. Are you ready? Yes, yes I am. Okay, give me one of those sword masks. We look ridiculous, Diggins. What? Where'd all my hair go? just like scrunched up into the mask? That must be super uncomfortable. It'll take some effort not to crack up laughing in these things, but we should be fine. Okay, let's get in the teleportation device. Ready? Here we go! Good, we're all in one piece. Did I mention there was a danger of permanent that word? Oh, you guys again. Finally got rid of those stupid disguises, I see. I don't know what it is, but there's something strange about your faces. Are you sure you guys didn't get some bizarre human disease down on Earth? What? Why? Yes, actually. That's exactly what happened. It's called, weird face-itis. They say it's really contagious. Urgh, stay away. I do not want to look like that. Do everyone a favor and get over to the sickbay right away. Oh no, I gotta go. Thank goodness the fear of cooties is apparently universal, eh? Let's get going. Alright, and with that, we have made it onto the Dinaurian ship with our disguises. But I think this is going to be the end of this episode. So if you like this episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And next time, we'll be going through the Dinaurian ship to see what it holds and see if we can stop their plan to eradicate humans. But until then, happy adventuring.